It's Tuesday, so of course that means it's Technological Day or Technology or Digital Day, whatever you want to call it, on this programme. Delighted to be joined by Professor Kevin Curran from Ulster University. Always a pleasure. Kevin, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mark.
Kevin, a wee spot, and I haven't heard anybody else talking about it, but I see you've noticed it as well. The whole thing about the fragmentation of social media. It used to be, everybody had an everything. And then now that some of the well, call them patriarchs of the various platforms are doing their thing. You're observing that social media is going into sort of post-Trump silos.
Exactly. There's been reports out that social media sites and their users risk fragmenting along political lines, especially after Donald Trump's election win. And it is so obvious to me, my evenings actually, I don't really watch much content on Netflix or whatever else. I spend it on social media, and a lot of the time on the likes of X and Blue Sky and others as well, and Reddit. But it's just night and day. I go to X and I just see the right-wing content and being pushed along, and then I go to Blue Sky and I see all the anti-Elon, all the anti-Trump messages, and the left-wing, as well. So it is completely night and day. And the users on there, you can just tell a user now by, what profile they nearly have. Obviously a lot of content generators as well, like myself, just have profiles on both platforms as well, and just to read it. But it is so polarizing on both sides, for instance, and threads as well.
But isn't it interesting, Kevin? I think it's understandable in this regard that, social media was, you had it in your back pocket at the start, but now these characters, the Elon Musks, the Zuckerbergs, they have so much clout, it seems, in the sort of public marketplace of ideas, of politics, of everything. It's kind of understandable that either want to be one of in their gang or not.
Totally. And also the misinformation. I feel for younger people. I'll give you an example. Last night I was on X and I seen this post, and it had thousands of likes and hundreds of retweets as well. And it was about basically a Kenyan minister saying that they were going to he wanted to ban the World Health Organization because birth rates were dropping so much in Kenya. And I was going, jeepers, that's interesting. And he blamed it on the vaccine. So off I go, and at least I came out of there and I go and I Google, and I find out that the birth rate has been dropping dramatically since the 30s and the 40s, 50s. Basically, it's down to the adoption of condoms, really. And it's nothing to do with in the recent years. The trend has completely gone from 8 or 9 children in a household down to 2.9, which is still, whatever. But a young person reading that, or even someone else, would have taken that at face value, that post, and then build on that and found more content that would agree with their... Whereas it was an incorrect post. And so unless you're able to cross, and that's what I try to do, go to different platforms and see things from both sides as well. Even if you grit your teeth at times on something that that is not. But again, a lot of people don't. They remain within these walled gardens as well. And that is very dangerous for the future.
But Kevin, that's taken, you're an academic professor of standing, so you've spent 2 hours of your time in life last night getting to the bottom of one mistruth. And there's millions of them. So I don't know where the healthy place is to be here as consumers.
Exactly. That's very different. It's very difficult because... But everything we get has some type of bias, whether, it really is. I mean, and there's always been, again, it's just that it might not have been as obvious to the ordinary person who goes into a shop and to buy their whatever newspaper, but there always was an agenda behind it, either from the left or from the right. And people would not necessarily know, the ordinary person, whether or not the Guardian was right-leaning, or left-leaning, whatever else. But we just bought them. And then, of course, the newspapers disappear and are gradually disappearing and will disappear. And we're left with just the online platforms as well. And, of course, a lot of people will not know again, whether, we've seen the change in Meta, of course, again, which was very much on the left and now moving more to the right as well, and removing the content moderation as well, from humans and leaving it to algorithms as well. So, again, there is no easy fix because, of course, if we come along and whatever government of the day is, again, they will try to ban, obviously, or try to restrict the platform that they see as a risk to them. And again, and then the next government comes in. But of course, what we need is what we need is regulation, of course, to a large degree as well, but also we need education as well. And but again, it's not an easy fix.
But what happens if they go for the regulation and the regulator? I don't know, Kevin, have you got a crystal ball? It'll be interesting to see the next year or two holds with regard to the various axioms between Musk and Zuckerberg and Trump and all of that. It could get fiery, eh?
Oh, absolutely. Again, but of course, governments they know the power within the media, and I've always known that as well, and what it can spin for them as well, and it's one of their key weapons is control of the media, whether that's online or, of course, in mainstream media as well.
I just want good old-fashioned journalism. Regardless, I just want to look at it and go, that's done by a professional person who's set their prejudice aside and told me the truth. Too much to ask, Kevin, in a word?
No, of course not. And for myself, I always want to be seen as as a voice of reason in the future as well. And that's why we'll need actually people and platforms as well. And of course, the BBC strive to be content, to be neutral, whatever, and unbiased as well. But of course, that's what we need. We need these platforms again being very important in the future, when that we can rely on them and trust them.
Kevin, I appreciate your time today. The Professor of Cybersecurity with Ulster University. That's Professor Kevin Curran.